Hi guys, I'm Irene. You're watching Perpetually Paperback, and today I'm going to be talking about the best books I've read so far in 2021. So, today I'm going to be talking about the best books that I've read in 2021 so far. Now, these aren't necessarily all books that came out this year. These are just books that I have read within this year. So I'm going to just start. I don't really have an order for which one is the best that I've read so far. All of these are among my favorites. They're very different genres, so I'm just going to go in order that I read them in. First book I read that is absolutely fantastic is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This book was beautiful. It was atmospheric. It was quietly lovely. It also was very surprising in the way that the actual story was laid out. So this story follows Kaya, and she lives in like a marshland. She's known as the Marsh Girl. From a very young age, she was abandoned by her parents and kind of had to figure out how to live her life on her own. So as she's kind of going through her sort of formative years, you get different people that help her out in her life. One of them becomes a love interest. You also see this other one that could potentially become a love interest as well. That's about half the story. And then it's told in a dual storyline. So the other part of it is this murder case that is happening with one of the most popular, the jock of the town, so to speak. I think it's Chase is his name. I read it at the beginning of the year, so the names are losing me a little bit. But that you're listening to this murder trial basically happen, and it's just such an unexpected way of telling her life. It ended fantastically. I never saw it coming, but it was so great. The writing was just beautiful. The entire experience of reading that one was absolutely fantastic. I read that one for a book club that I'm in, and almost every single person, it's been the one that everyone has liked the most so far. If you haven't read it, definitely check it out. I want to say that's literary fiction. And the reason I'm giving the genre is because I'm a little bit all over the place. Next book I read that I thought was fantastic, and I couldn't stop talking about it forever. It was She Came to Slay: The Life and Times of Harriet Tubman. And this one is by, I don't ever remember this author, Erica Armstrong Dunbar. It was actually a very short little, I think it was like a novella. It was very short, about 4 hours. I listened to it, but it literally is exactly what it says it is. It's the story of Harriet Tubman's life. If you don't know it, I knew very little about her. Obviously the Underground Railroad, the general things that everyone kind of knows. I didn't know how cool her life was. And maybe there was nothing exceptional about the book. Maybe I just thought her life was so cool that I found the book fantastic. It was a really fun time. This one is nonfiction. I truly recommend this to anyone. It was a really good breather in between some of the stuff I was reading, and I just loved it. She is so cool. She's a queen. She slayed and then continued to slay her entire life. Like, her accomplishments are outstanding. Obviously, everyone knows who Harriet Tubman is, but just, it was such a worth it read. That was fantastic. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Jenkins Reid. I loved it. I loved it so much. It had such old Hollywood vibes, which is so right up my alley. I just absolutely love it. If you're a fan of Karina Longworth's podcast, You Must Remember This, you should definitely check this book out. It was great. It had great representation. It had great writing, which for me, I have a very love-hate relationship with TJR, so it was surprising. But honestly, it was a book that I thought I was going to love from the get-go. There were some things that didn't work as well as I would have liked, but overall, I thought the book was great. I had such an enjoyable time reading it. It was easy to get through. The character, Evelyn Hugo, was a fantastic character. Fantastic. And not necessarily in a good way. What's nice, I think, about Jenkins Reid is that she doesn't shy away from giving you ugly characters that will do anything to get where they want to be. And that was very much Evelyn. But at the end of the day, you're also really rooting for her. And it ended really great. I have very little bad things to say about this one. The only issue that I really had was at the beginning, there were, it's told by, so it basically follows Evelyn Hugo, who is this old Hollywood star, as she's being interviewed by this young woman from this magazine. She handpicked this woman and basically wouldn't do the interview without her. There's a reason for it that you find out at the end, and obviously there's like this big cliffhanger that you know, or not cliffhanger, but like, you know throughout the whole book that she picked her for a reason, and you're just waiting to find out. The reveal, great reveal. Never saw it coming. So not that I don't think predictability is necessarily a bad thing in books, because I think that if a writer does it well, it doesn't matter if you know what the outcome is going to be. Case in point, Song of Achilles. You know Achilles dies. Like, I don't know anyone that doesn't know that. It's worth it. I can't talk about that one yet because I actually haven't finished it, but that would be a really good example of this. So I don't necessarily think predictability is a bad thing. However, this was wildly unpredictable and so fantastic. Very sad in certain parts. Like, I definitely cry. I'm a big crier in all of these. So like, did I cry in all of them? I did not cry in all of my selections, but 3 out of 5. That's not great. Anyway, definitely check out Evelyn Hugo. So far, it is one of the few Taylor Jenkins Reid books that I would recommend without a single caveat. She's really fun. She's classified as historical fiction, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't fully understand that. I would kind of put her under like general lit or contemporary fiction, because aside of just being set in a time that is historical, I don't think they're historical fiction, but she tends to be classified as historical fiction. I would go in thinking it's more like general contemporary. Next, I read Joe Abercrombie's A Little Hatred, and this is a grimdark fantasy. I don't know that it felt like either fantasy or particularly grimdark, but that's how the book is categorized. It is part of the Age of Madness trilogy, and this is the first book. It follows the children of the people in his first series, which was, I don't remember, but he has another more popular series, and really I should have read those first, but I didn't, and I actually really enjoyed this one. I don't think so as someone that hasn't read any other Joe Abercrombie and just started here, I thought it was easy to get into. The writing was something that was actually the best part. It was fantastic. So I tend to like really character-driven stories, and for me, this worked out amazingly. It pretty much follows those children of the people that were in power in the first one. You're learning, it's a lot about politics and power structure, but really you get a deep dive into these like set of 4 characters, and you just follow them in their lives and what happens to them. So I will say, if you don't like character-driven stories, this one, I couldn't even tell you what the plot is, because there's just things that happen to them that you know are gonna be for their own development. There's like a coup that happens in the middle of the book, but we don't really understand why any of this is happening yet, at least where we stand in this one. So this one lacked plot, it would be safe to say. But it didn't ruin it for me. I actually really enjoyed it. This has been one that I like have so many highlights in this book, because I just thought there were such fantastic lines. The writing, the way that Joe Abercrombie chooses to tell a story, and the way that he gives us the perspectives that he does. Like he takes a scene, and instead of giving you the 2 protagonists of that scene as like you're not in their mind, you're in the mind of someone very close to the action. It's super interesting, and it's a really cool way to tell a story that you've probably heard before. Also, the writing, I can't say enough about the writing. It's absolutely fantastic. Just like the next book I'm going to talk about. The next book I have is one I just finished recently. It's Anxious People by Fredrick Backman. I have yet to read something by Fredrick Backman that I've disliked, mostly because, like Joe Abercrombie, he's a fantastic writer. All of the people that I'm talking about today, maybe with the exception of TJR, actually, I can't say that. Every single person, every single author that I told today told a story that is not exceptionally interesting, but they told it in a way that made it so fantastic. Anxious People follows a bank robber, or a bank robbery that turns into a hostage situation at an open house. And you get all of these players in the hostage and the open house, and then you also get these two cops that are interviewing everyone to find out what happens. This book was the M. Night Shyamalan of stories. It was like reveal after reveal without even being on purpose. Backman in this one challenges your first impressions of people, of things. I'll say this one actually deals a lot with suicide, and it actually was much, much heavier than what I originally anticipated, because it's somewhat of a funny one. And actually it is very humorous. It's very humorous. He has a very dry humor that I just think it's really, I don't know. I really enjoy it. I kept laughing and smiling throughout reading it. And he also just takes what Backman is super good at is he takes a situation, a theme, a topic that is difficult and that you need to take care with. And he just presents it in a way that makes you feel safe, if I can say. I don't know if I can describe it well, but I think I told my book club that I was he's like the Sour Patch Kid. He's talking about something that you really hate, so he's like giving you a punch in the gut while also giving you a hug at the same time. That would be the best way that I think I could describe Backman. I absolutely recommend every single one of these books. Every single one of these writers gave so much to their work in all of these. I recommend every single one. I don't know that they were 5-star reads, but honestly, the more I'm reading, the more I'm thinking I'm going to eliminate star ratings, just because I don't know that I couldn't necessarily give you a star rating on all of these. I would say maybe they're all 5 stars, but these I think are just going to be the most memorable books that I've read this year. I think each of these is one that I will remember, and ultimately that is a fantastic book for one reason or another. These in particular had some of the best writing that I've read in the last couple years at all, period. So that is most definitely worth a read. If you've read any of these or agree or disagree, I would love to talk to you about it. So leave a comment. If you've made it to the end of the video, leave me a little emoji, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.